Has anybody here ever heard of the phrase, you're never too old to learn, or never stop learning because life never stops teaching? Well, back when I was in middle school, I had this very, I guess, Asian concept of striving to be the best at everything, to continue learning, to make my parents proud. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. I'm just saying that it's truly exhausting, you know? Has anybody ever felt the same way? Felt the pressure that society or your teachers or your parents or even yourself place upon you? The pressure of being the best and maintaining the reputation of being the best is just sometimes too much to bear. Aside from achieving academic excellence, there was also the pressure of socially involving myself into the issues of my local community. So I joined charity groups, I joined organizations, I volunteered in community work that I never would have thought of, even going as far as co-founding an organization here at AIS. You name it, I've done it all. And then there's every high school student's nightmares, college, right? Is anybody here uncertain as to where they want to go or what they want to do in the future? Well, back then I thought that I basically had to just enroll in one of the top universities in the world and then get accepted, because that's what a good child, a good student, a good citizen should be doing, right? Those were the thoughts that ran through my head every day for the past years of my life. They make me feel as if I am just a shadow of other people's ideas of the perfect being. My desire to please those around me was overshadowing who I really am. I was pressured by the pressure that was placed on me by myself. I guess this is where the turning point is, the part where I say, my life remains boring until, so here we go. My life remains boring until I saw this competition, Wild Rhino Competition. One where you have to write an essay about rhino horn consumption and rhino poaching to win a trip to South Africa. I know, we have to write an essay. But hear me out. It wasn't just any trip, though. It was a trip to the wilderness, complete wilderness. You can't have anything with you. So no phones, no laptops, no watches, no toilet paper, no nothing. You have to be 100% stripped away from everything that you've ever known and treasured your entire life. It was a trip where you get to immerse yourself in the so-called nature. 3 years ago, only 2 students in my school were chosen. Seems pretty prestigious, right? So then instantly, my head screamed at me to take this opportunity to do something that has an international impact. Because after all, it will look great to my resume to Johns Hopkins, right? Long story short, I poured my entire heart into the essay that I was writing, and I won the competition. I'm sorry if the tone that I'm giving off is too uncaring or too apathetic to this crisis of rhino horn consumption and rhino poaching. It's quite the opposite, really. Being an ex-user of rhino horn, trust me, the passion is there. Okay, back to the trail. So on our 3rd day to South Africa, we encountered a family of 3 rhinos. Are you not impressed? Okay, let's imagine this. Let's say you're walking down the street alone at night, and then suddenly you hear these sounds behind you. You know those sounds that are just creepy enough to make you wonder as to what it is behind you? So you slowly stepped back, look around, and boom! A giant bear appears in front of you. You're scared. You're terrified. So what do? You can't scream for help. You're alone, and it's at night. You know you can't fight the bear either, because he's at least, or she's at least 10 times stronger than you. What do? What do you do to make sure that you survive the situation? Do you panic? Do you play dead? Do you try to Snapchat the bear and send him to your friends as a way of saying goodbye? What is the right thing to do then to make sure that you come out alive? Those were the thoughts that ran through my head. Except there were 3 rhinos in front of me. 3 wild rhinos with more experience in the wilderness than I ever had and probably ever will have. To my surprise, though, they didn't attack me. They didn't attack any of us. They simply looked at me and then slowly walked away. As a sign of respect, my guide said. Right then and there, I knew that whatever differences that we had, humans and rhinos, we all share the same air, the same earth, and the same soul. And as I gazed into their eyes and they to mine, I realized that humans too were born from the same Mother Nature. The trip truly taught me a lot of things. It taught me to look at the world in a brand new way, to see a different world that I never even knew about. It placed me in a world of nature, one with such overwhelming beauty that I kept on forgetting I was not in a dream. It also placed me in this state of vulnerability, one where I am stripped off with everything that I've ever known and so familiar with my entire life, and left me with nothing but myself. This is my turning point. During the trail, my guide, he kept on telling us how the river that we crossed at the beginning of the trail signifies the border that separates nature from civilizations. At first, I felt troublesome for having to take my shoes off. But I can never forget the emotions that I felt when my foot touched the cool water the first time. Refreshed. It felt as if I'd finally had the time to take a power nap after 18 years of sleep deprivation. In fact, after I crossed the river, I didn't even want to put my shoes back on. I counted the steps. 7 steps. 7 small steps are all it takes to cross the river, a seemingly huge border that humans set up to represent their superiority to the rest of the Animalia kingdom. And as I'm standing here today, I can proudly say that I've crossed the river, I've seen the other side, and it was beautiful. Never in my whole life would I expect that river to become such a big part of my life. Achievement that I never knew I could accomplish. It also gave me a pair of new lenses to see the world in a brand new way. The other side. It wasn't like the crowded and busy streets of Vietnam. It was way more lively. There were bird chirps rather than car horns. There were elephants and buffaloes and rhinos. Rather than motorbikes and bikes and cars and trucks. There were trees that filled the sky rather than smoke and smog. It was a different kind of beauty, one that relieves me of my responsibilities, not one that brings me the sense of heaviness like that brought to me by the polluted city of Ho Chi Minh. Every breath of wind, every ray of sunlight, every embrace of warmth, I could feel them all. Every bee has a hive, every person has a purpose. I found myself in nature, and it taught me to question my own purpose, as well as to appreciate the small things in life. This is another of my turning points. When I got back to Vietnam, I realized that there's meaning in everything. That annoying loud kid in the back of the bus who keep on boasting about his new iPad, what is he like at home? Is he an only child? How much attention does he get from his parents? That cat you see on the streets isn't simply a cat. He or she is a part of a certain community, maybe a mom, a dad, an orphan. That worn-out restaurant you see in the side of the street, one with 0 customers, with spider webs and cockroaches anywhere. One with its owner lying on a hammock, picking his nose, wondering why he has no customers. It is, or at least it used to be, someone's hard work and determination. There's life in everything, every animal, every object, every person, every event. I've learned so much, and I've gained so much more knowledge in that short 5 days in the wilderness than I did in the past 18 years of my life. I found myself in nature. And most importantly, I found who I truly am and what I'm truly passionate about. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was Peter Pan himself, rather than his shadows. You know what else I realized? Screw it, whatever. Who cares? Who cares if no one likes me? Who cares if I don't get straight A's every quarter? Who cares if I don't get into an Ivy League school? The moment I realized I don't have to be society's shadows, I was free. Free to do whatever I want to be, and free to be whatever other people don't want me to be. It felt wonderful. Don't get me wrong, though, I didn't ignore I didn't ignore any of my responsibilities. Instead, I filtered my activities. I continued joining those that I genuinely care about, and quitted those that I'm not so excited about. Has anybody ever felt the same way? That sudden catharsis, that release of emotions. It felt as if I'd finally had the courage to remove all those weights that I've been carrying around my whole life. I guess what I'm trying to say is, just live your life, man. You don't need anyone's approval on how to live your life. I mean, unless we're all living in a simulation carefully calculated and controlled by an alien super race, then I guess we do need their approval. But in all seriousness, if you believe that none of what I said makes sense, or if you've been zoning out for the past 13 minutes, then first of all, welcome back. Hello. I'm Ann. Second of all, just remember this one word. Live, because who knows what the heck life is going to give you tomorrow. Thank you.